Welcome back to Quick Movie Reviews. It's been 157 years. Actually, I did one of these last year, right around this time actually. It's almost like award season is filled with so many movies you want to see, but you can't review all of them unless you bunch them all into one big video, which is what I'm about to do, because I'm too busy and it might be in pre-production on a movie that I'm going to start shooting next spring, hopefully. You didn't hear that? Zip it! You didn't hear that. So let's talk about some films that I saw at Fantastic Fest, as well as some new releases that are coming out very soon. These are going to be shortened reviews. I apologize for not having the time to do in-depth videos for all of these. I just really need to get my thoughts on these out there so that I can focus on some other stuff that I'm working on. Let's get started with Jojo Rabbit. I saw this movie at Fantastic Fest. It was the premiere film there. Taika Waititi came out, he gave a speech, and he was kind of maybe drunk, I'm not entirely sure. I think he's a fantastic filmmaker, and Jojo Rabbit is a very unique movie that could definitely ruffle some feathers, I guess, make some people mad because it takes a sort of comedic look at something that's very dark in our history, and that is that we have a boy who's imagining that he's friends with Hitler, and Hitler, played by Taika Waititi, comes in and gives him advice, and this boy also happens to find out that his mother is harboring a young Jewish woman upstairs in the walls. And so this boy, being a radical, super supporter of Hitler, has to come to terms with some things. And what I love about this movie is that it gets away with quite a bit, because Taika Waititi's portrayal of Hitler is what a 10-year-old boy who loves Hitler would imagine him to be. So he can get away with all these really insane things. And it works. I thought this movie was really funny. And it also really knows how to pull on your heartstrings in specific scenes that I thought were really powerful. In particular, a visual callback involving shoes. He sets that up in such a subtle way, and I thought this movie was really, really great. It's one of my favorites of the year. I'm going to give Jojo Rabbit an A. I also saw Color Out of Space at Fantastic Fest, starring Nicolas Cage, directed by Richard Stanley, his first big film in a long time. This guy was done really wrong by the Hollywood system with The Island of Dr. Moreau back in the 90s, and now he's back with an H.P. Lovecraft adaptation of sorts, and Nicolas Cage is suitably insane in this movie. And he has just those scenes that you want to see. But I also think that it's warranted. The script affords him a lot of opportunities to go really big in the movie, and he takes all of them. Now, what I understand about Nicolas Cage is that oftentimes he'll give the director many different versions of takes, all the way from 1 to 10. Subtle stuff, not so subtle stuff, and then vampire's kiss. And it's sort of sometimes up to the editor and the director to figure out which takes work the best. So he's really versatile in regards to what he gives a director, and you just have to know what to use from what he gives you. And I think Richard Stanley does a pretty good job here with Cage. The movie has some really outlandish visuals, as you might expect with a Lovecraft adaptation. Some of them could have used a little bit more money, I think. Not all of the visuals are always as convincing as they could be. Some of that could be budget constraints. But as a bizarre, off-kilter movie with an incredibly bizarre and off-kilter actor, I thought this movie was a lot of fun. I'm going to give Color Out of Space a B. I also saw The Lodge at Fantastic Fest. This movie, unfortunately, is going to suffer from a lot of comparisons to Hereditary. There's like a dollhouse in the movie, and there's a lot of shots inside that dollhouse, and it's very important to the story. Unfortunately, from what I understand, though, and please don't quote me on this because it was just from somebody at the festival who said he knew the filmmakers, they were shooting this movie before they saw Hereditary, and like everything was all planned out, and unfortunately Hereditary came out and it was big, and now this movie is going to suffer. And that shouldn't happen, really, because this is a really well-directed movie. It's from the directors of Goodnight Mommy. It's very suspenseful, there's a lot of tension, and I found myself on edge for the majority of the movie. But there's also sort of a third act reveal that I kind of hated. It's going to be one of those things that polarizes people. I'm going to give The Lodge a B-. One of the cool things about Fantastic Fest is there's always a couple secret screenings. You can fill up a theater and have no idea what movie you're about to see. And I did that, and it ended up being Dolemite Is My Name. And I got to see it in a theater instead of on Netflix. And I'm so happy I did, because Eddie Murphy is incredible in this movie. He is so fucking great. I loved seeing him in a good movie. It's been years. As far as stand-up comedians go, he's always been my favorite, and I'm loving that he's in the middle of this resurgence. Apparently, Beverly Hills Cop 4 is going to be on Netflix or something, and I'm hoping that we can get another stand-up special out of this man because he's a fucking genius. This movie is a lot of fun. It explores Rudy Ray Moore, this larger-than-life character who essentially made himself famous out of pure will, blood, sweat, and tears. And you hear so many filmmakers nowadays telling you, just look, if you can make a movie of any kind, just do it, because nobody's going to hand you an opportunity. You basically have to take hold of your own fame and just make it fucking happen. And that's exactly what this movie's about. I'm going to give Dolemite Is My Name a B+. I also saw VFW, directed by Joe Begos, not entirely sure. This film is about some old dudes who are at this bar that's made for veterans. And there's a drug that's being passed around in this timeline, and it makes people just kind of fucking crazy. And there's some money and some drug problems that lead to a little bit of a gang war between the old dudes in this bar and this gang that wants their drugs back. And they're going to essentially form a circle around this bar, and it's basically Escape from New York combined with Assault on Precinct 13. It's very heavily inspired by John Carpenter, and there's a lot of fun moments. There's a lot of good, gritty violence. It feels very 80s. But there are some times where, again, similar to Color Out of Space, it felt like they could have used just a little more money. There are some scenes that feel a bit cobbled together in the action, sort of last minute and not very well planned out. But Stephen Lang in this film is fucking excellent. I really liked his performance in the movie. And although it can kind of feel a bit disposable, it's got enough gore and enough excitement to get the job done, I'd say, especially if you're watching it at home at some point on VOD. I'll give VFW a B-. El Camino is on Netflix right now, the Breaking Bad film. Breaking Bad is probably my favorite drama series of all time. From start to finish, the show is virtually flawless. Best performances I've ever fucking seen on TV. And Aaron Paul is phenomenal in this movie. He sells so much of the scenes that otherwise may have been a bit disposable, because this is one of those movies that you don't really need. Like, the ending of Breaking Bad was pretty great. And even though I didn't really need the movie, I loved watching it because it's really well shot, really well acted, and it's constantly engaging. There's always a problem that he has to solve, Jesse. There's always an issue. Something is always bugging him. Something's always going wrong. He's constantly on the wrong side of things, and you have to watch him crawl his way out of it. And so even though it's not necessary, I had a great time watching it. And it was also really nice to see Robert Forster one more time. I'm gonna give El Camino a B+. And last but not least, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, starring Tom Hanks as Fred Rogers. The best casting ever. And the film gives honor to his legacy. There's a lot of really heartwarming scenes. It's a PG movie. It's a movie designed to make you feel good about treating others well, which is a great message. And I don't really think the movie kind of preaches to you, which I liked. The essential message of the movie is just be kind to people. It's not telling you you're wrong or telling you you're living your life the wrong way. It's just saying, hey, like, maybe try to look at life through a different lens sometimes. And I like that about the film. What I didn't like about the movie is that the lead character we experience the movie through is incredibly cynical and basically a terrible person. I understand that's part of his arc. It's basically designed around Fred Rogers coming into this man's life and showing him a better way of living. But we have to experience the film through his eyes, this asshole, for so long that it was kind of annoying, actually. But Tom Hanks is so good in the movie, and if you ever watch Mr. Rogers like I did, then this movie is probably going to affect you on an emotional level in some way. Although I would just recommend seeing Won't You Be My Neighbor, I think, over this. It's not a bad movie, it's just that I think the documentary is loads better. I'll give A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood a B. Oh, and I also played Luigi's Mansion 3. I beat the game with my wife. We took turns. Like, she would play a floor, I would play a floor. We tried to find all the gems and everything. It was great. Really clever and innovative game. Easily the best in the franchise. I fucking love my Nintendo Switch, and I'm so happy with it. 9 out of 10. Sometimes the controls are a little wonky. Now I'm caught up. I feel much better now. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. I'm going to have reviews for Frozen 2 and Charlie's Angels this weekend, as well as some stuff that I got sent. You know what? I'm not going to tell you what they are. I got some movies I'm excited to watch, and I'll surprise you. Look forward to those. Thank you guys as always for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.